In 1953, tyrannical Soviet Union leader Joseph Stalin died of a cerebral hemorrhage. In the aftermath, each member of his Council of Ministers scrambled to be the first to grab power and become the most powerful man in the Soviet Union. This story, loaded with bloodshed and double dealing, was prime pickings for a farcical retelling in the 2017 political satire, The Death of Stalin. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
And I'm Isabel Gonzalez.
And this is Filmgazm.
We're back. I'm back. I haven't gone. I died.
Welcome to the Filmgazm podcast. I'm joined today by fellow historian and recent master's degree obtainer, Isabel Gonzalez. Thank God we made it. Who's here to join me in discussing the power struggle in Russia after Stalin and the hilarious comedy that retells it. So prior to our podcast reboot, we had 4 active podcasts. There was the Filmgazm podcast, Oscar Sunday, Beyond the Bad, and our newest show, Fake True Stories, which I hosted with Isabel. Consider her appearances on this new Filmgazm podcast a history lesson, as we intend to continue the spirit and structure of Fake True Stories whenever Isabel is here with a biopic that inevitably tweaks history just a tad.
Yeah, I make these podcasts boring.
With that, this was your pick. Why'd you choose The Death of Stalin?
Man, this is one of my movies that's in my, what's it called? Comfort films. I don't know if I listed on the website, like, my favorite films. I feel like I do, but I might not have listed it. I can't remember. Either way, it's one of my comfort films. The first time I saw it was with my brother, and it made me laugh so much. And I can't help but laugh anytime I watch it. It's a hilarious film, and I wanted to know how accurate it was. I know it's a satire, and that's, like, you should know if it's a satire, it's not going to be, true to everything. But I wanted to know, like, how far from the truth was it? And some points it wasn't too far, not even going to lie. But it's a fun movie.
You did include this in your bio. Yeah, this is one of your favorites. It's easy to see why. This was my second time watching The Death of Stalin. I'd watched it a few years ago when it came out, just because I'm a fan of Armando Iannucci, the filmmaker, and everyone involved, I love them too. So I was like, a silly retelling of the power struggle following Stalin's death. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
And I was right. It's hilarious. Nobody's speaking in Russian or a Russian accent. It's just American and British the whole way through. I love that. It's the only time it's never bothered me. Every other time it's like it feels disingenuous, but it worked in this one.
Yeah.
And it's just a silly time, but then also gets insanely serious towards the end when, like, people start making their move.
Yeah. It stops being funny the last, 10 minutes of the movie.
And all of a sudden you're reminded, like, oh yeah, these guys were monsters.
They existed. And this is pretty bad.
This is the Soviet Union. This is the USSR. These are the commies.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's such a strange film. It's hard to explain. Satire, you either get it or you don't. There's not really any middle ground with that. Like, if you're not in on the joke, you're not going to, eventually be in on the joke. So I'm glad that I, got it.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate satirical films, black comedies, dark humor. I love all that stuff. It makes me laugh. It's good to be able to poke fun at serious things, because I think that's just a common thing that people do. And this is a really, really serious event in world history, and I don't know. I appreciate it. I know it met a lot of opposition in Russia. Russia didn't like it because
we're going to get into that.
This is anti-Russian propaganda, but I mean, yeah, it kind of was.
It's true. There's no way to really justify that.
No.
If I'm leading Russia and this movie comes out, no one in my country's seeing this.
Yeah, I also would be like, no, that didn't, what? No.
Stalin was a great man.
He was awesome. We love Comrade Stalin.
I guess because, like, this era of history is so insanely dark, so full of bloodshed, that to tell this as a comedy makes it a little lighter, makes it more palatable, makes it more accessible, and, you need that levity, or else it just gets, this turns into Schindler's List. Like, you need that.
Yeah.
And Iannucci is so good at just keeping you laughing while at the same time informing you. I've seen a few of his films now, and the guy's just talented. So, to start out, my question to you. We see this a lot in American films made about European characters of European history. So, why do you think American films frequently use British accents as a base accent for European characters, regardless of their country of origin?
I think because it sounds more sophisticated. At least to us, it sounds more sophisticated. So we're like, oh yes, if it's in a foreign place, it'll sound more sophisticated if it's in a foreign act. And also, I think part of it could be too, if you did it in a different accent, like if you were trying to talk in Russian accent or something like that, you would have an audience that's like, I didn't understand what they said. But if you speak in a British accent, that's not like the, like the Southern British accent where you're like, what the hell just came out of your mouth? Like, but it's like the Queen's English kind of a thing. It's like, oh, okay, I understand what they're saying. And I know they're not American because they're not speaking like me. I hate it, though. I absolutely hate whenever I watch a movie and they're like, oh, yep, this is about Louis the 16th. And he's like, my good people, we are here today. Like, ew! No! I would rather them speak in crappy accents than English accents. But that's just me personally. I don't know if there's probably some group that would be offended if you tried to do an accent for somebody else. But I'm more offended that they don't use accents of the country that they're trying to represent. Like, if that person who wouldn't be speaking English in the first place is speaking English, they're not going to be speaking it in the Queen's English all of a sudden. Like, they're going to be speaking it with an accent.
Well, I mean, it's not that complicated. Just if you're making a film about French history, maybe cast a French actor, maybe have them speak French, and, the people who are not going to be okay with that don't want to see this fucking movie anyway.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I love Inglourious Bastards. Because Tarantino, despite all his, faults and his constant, weird thing with feet and the things people keep coming after him about, the guy made a movie, a World War II movie, with Germans speaking German, French speaking French, and Americans speaking terrible English.
Yeah.
And everyone got on board. That was a huge box office success.
Arrivederci.
Yeah. Yeah. It works. So it is, you can do it. I get why Iannucci didn't do it, because to have, a bunch of Russian accents in this movie would just make this look like an SNL sketch.
That's fair. Yeah, and I think because this was a comedy, it was okay. If it was like this is an actual historic drama about what happened with the power struggle when Stalin died, You're like, come on. Because it was a comedy, you're like, it's fine. They're saying like bloke and like piss off and sod off. Like, ha ha ha. Like, that's funny kind of a thing. And then you also have Steve Buscemi and Jeffrey Tambor that don't have English accents, and they're just kind of thrown in there too. But that's okay. I don't want them to have English accents. Like, that would have been weird if you had them
but also
fake an English accent.
Having Stalin have like a Cockney street English accent, like, about fucking time, what, you fucking walk here? Like, just, how do you not piss yourself laughing at that?
No.
It's
like
perfect.
Not what you would expect him to sound like.
Not at all.
At all.
Stalin is like, just a weird British guy you'd find at the pub.
Yeah.
Not a guy who was like single-handedly responsible for millions of deaths.
Do you think the Stalin lookalikes in the movie would have also canonically sounded like he did? Or do you think they would have had different accents? Or would they have done like the, you fucking walk here, mate, what? Like, like that kind of thing? Or would they have been more like Queen's English, like, oh yes, 'tis me, Comrade Stalin?
I don't know. It depends on who you cast, I guess. In this case, I know that like some of the actors, like Jason Isaacs, he put on a more like, I think it was Yorkshire accent for Field Marshal Zhukov, because he thought, this is a learned man who's been to war, so I may not get to play him as a Russian, but I'm going to play him as an educated Englishman.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it also depends on the actor's personal choice and how they choose to perceive this fictionalized version of these guys. That's another thing you got to constantly be reminded of, is like, this is not a documentary. No. It's not an accurate portrayal of these guys. This is a farcical portrayal of Nikita Khrushchev and Joseph Stalin and these people who are real people, but, probably didn't kneel in Stalin's piss. Not even once. I know I bring this up a lot whenever this comes up, because it is, to me, like the worst offender of this trope. It's the 2001 war film Enemy at the Gates, which is about the Battle of Stalingrad. and a cat and mouse game that occurred between a Russian sniper and a German sniper during that battle. The Russians are all English actors. Rachel Weisz, Jude Law, Joseph Fiennes. Bob Hoskins plays Khrushchev and shows up being like, "You fucking what? We're at the back of the line. We need to be at the front." And I'm like, "No, this is ridiculous." And the Germans are Americans. It's like Ed Harris. And I'm thinking, like, who the fuck cast this thing? Like, this, really? This is insane. It took me out of the movie within 5 minutes, and then, like, the rest of the movie's not even that good.
Yeah.
So I was just, like, flabbergasted the whole time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like 300 and... what's his name? I forgot his name at this point.
Gerard Butler?
Yeah, that guy. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's what an ancient, like, Spartan would have sounded like, even if they were speaking English. Like, I don't think they would have had that, like, Irish accent going on.
Scottish.
Bad. Sorry, Scottish.
Yeah.
Scottish accent going on. Like, no, but...
Tonight we dine in hell. Makes me laugh every time. Because I know nobody gave a fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny, though, because any single time I watch that movie, I just think of the Sabaton song, Sparta, and they say, like, all of those things. But Sabaton actually bases their stuff off of actual history. I love Sabaton. Y'all should give them a listen. They're awesome. Pretty epic heavy metal band that sings about historic battles. Yeah. Very niche music, but I really like that's one of the lines in Sparta is, "Tonight we dine in hell," and yeah,
Oh my God.
It's pretty awesome.
I found out a few years ago, noted English character actor Christopher Lee. You might know him. He played Saruman in Lord of the Rings, Count Dooku in Star Wars, Dracula.
Yeah.
He, till the day he died in his 90s, was the lead singer of a English heavy metal, epic history themed band that sung about, like, the Saxons and shit.
Nice.
Like, he was an icon. Like, the dude was, like, in the British Secret Service. He was the inspiration for James Bond.
Nice.
Like, that dude was a rock star. And I listened to some of the music. It's hardcore. He's in, like, full fucking medieval knight get-up singing about the blood of the Saxon men, and I'm
what is that
shit.
band called?
I don't remember, but if you look up Christopher Lee metal band, you'll find it.
I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm gonna find a new band that I like to... But it sucks I'm not gonna be able to see him tour because he's dead. Rip in peace, Willy Wonka's dad.
I forgot he was Willy Wonka's
Lollipops.
dentist father. My God, I haven't thought about that movie in a while. That was fun. So yeah, really, it's up to the casting director. It's up to the filmmaker if they want to just portray accents accurately, which can be difficult. There might not necessarily be a French actor who could fit this role. So you grab Leo DiCaprio, whoever the hell, and just hope they have a good accent coach. Usually they don't.
No.
British can usually play American. Americans cannot play British.
No. I wouldn't buy it. Like, if it's like, oh, we're gonna get, I don't know, like the popular thing is saying Ryan Gosling's playing all the different characters. So they got like Ryan Gosling to play Winston Churchill. You'd be like, no, like, not just because of how he looks, but just like his voice. Like, no.
They did do the Netflix series The Crown did have an American playing Churchill.
Really?
John Lithgow. I haven't seen it because I don't watch a lot of TV shows.
That's fair.
But Lithgow as Churchill, I've seen some clips and I'm like, shit, you earned that Emmy, dude. Like, I believe it. So
does he have an accent or is it just him talking?
Oh no, he goes, he transforms. He's got the full like makeup. He's doing the accent.
No, okay, no, but I was just saying like if Ryan Gosling just went out and just was like, it's me, Ryan Gosling, and I'm Winston, it'd be like, no.
Well, then he's a shit actor.
Yeah, it's like, I was like, an American accent can't play anything but Americans, but for some reason, British accents can play everywhere in the world. You're doing a movie about Mansa Musa, British accent, perfect. Genghis Khan, British accent, perfect. Like Louis XVI, British accent. Ivan the Terrible, British accent.
Have you seen that 1956 movie where John Wayne played Genghis Khan?
No.
That is one of the most embarrassing films I've ever sat through. There's not a single Asian actor in that movie. There's more yellowface in that thing than The Simpsons. And it is just, I am the great Khan, and I'm here to conquer you people. Stop it, John.
Genghis Khan at the first siege battle.
It's so, like, even afterwards, Wayne was like, I shouldn't have done that.
It's like, I've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah. And that's not even talking about like all the, the irradiated set that killed everybody. Just the film itself is like, to die for that piece of shit, really? I know that I never, whenever I think of like Americans fucking it up on the global stage, the first movie I think of is The Conqueror, 1956.
Nice. Have you ever thought about doing a podcast where you're talking about like deadly movies and movies that have like killed people?
There's not, thankfully, not a lot of material. There's only a handful of like really horrible cases of people dying on film sets. You couldn't really build a whole podcast about that. You could probably talk about all of them in like one podcast.
Yeah.
But
or like doing one, or like doing episodes on here, or I don't know, like finding movies where it's like, yeah, like I think The Birds, I heard something, I don't know if you told me this or if this was what I was talking about with the people at Texas History Day. They like actually threw like live birds at us. Like, that's so messed up. And then like another movie, I think you were telling me, like the sea turtle getting killed.
Yeah.
Like old movies are really, the way that they did things to get the desired effect is like,
well, it is fucked up. And the more I think about it, the more like this, you could probably do something with that. Like, do you know about the Twilight Zone, the movie situation?
No.
That is probably the most infamous case of gross negligence on a film set that resulted in 3 deaths. They were filming. It was a segment. It was 5 segments of like the Twilight Zone inspired. So it was like short stories. One of them was like this guy who's a terrible racist who is like, oh, the Jews took my job, and then he leaves the bar and he's suddenly a Jew in 1940s Poland.
Christ.
So like he gets a lesson taught. And he ends up as a Vietnamese person in the Vietnam War being hunted by American soldiers. And there was a whole helicopter sequence that was supposed to be filmed. And they weren't, the director, John Landis, was not taking proper precautions for the helicopter. He wanted to rush it. He had to get a deadline. There were these 2 kids that were in the scene, and they weren't supposed to be working that late. He shot the scene anyway. The helicopter fell, crashed, decapitated Vic Morrow, the actor, and killed the 2 children.
Jesus.
They released the movie. They cut that part out. They edited. The movie came out. It was a modest success. It's now considered like a dark spot in Hollywood. They don't talk about this movie. Landis was put on trial for negligence. He beat it. I think he paid off some jurors. He never really had a lot of respect in Hollywood after that. But yeah, pretty fucked up. And yeah, Cannibal Holocaust. They also hacked a turtle to death. It's pretty fucked up. It happens more than you'd think, especially in the 20th century. It doesn't happen a lot anymore, thankfully. But when it does happen, there's like a proper investigation. Charges are filed. But I don't know if I want to do a podcast series on that. It's a dark place to go all the time.
Because I know like the Wizard of Oz had a lot of stuff that happened with it. Yeah, and I was wondering, like that's something that'd be interesting.
It might, whenever we talk about these films, it's gonna come up. So that'll happen. I don't know if I'm ever gonna fucking talk about The Conqueror again. I don't want to watch that piece of shit again. But Twilight Zone, the movie, I know it's sick, but it is a pretty good movie. It's just got that horrible dark cloud hanging over it. Thankfully, nobody was killed on the set of The Death of Stalin.
Hooray!
Yeah, which is ironic considering how many people die in this movie.
Yeah, and just in the period of Soviet Russia, which everyone's like, oh, Nazi Germany was so bad. Hitler killed so many people. Do y'all know how many people Stalin killed? Like, way more than that. But yeah, we don't talk about that because we, for some reason, just like to ignore what happened in communist China and communist Russia. But sure, yeah, Hitler's the worst person in all of history. He's an absolute piece of shit. But yeah, we like to ignore what Stalin and Mao did.
Why do you think that is?
Part of me thinks it's because they were our allies during that time. Because during World War II, we were allied with Russia and China, and we didn't become their enemy until like the Cold War stuff. And
yeah, but even during the Cold War, like we hated Russia for a long time. So you'd think that would become part of our rhetoric in this country of like how many people Stalin killed and how
you would think, But I mean, you don't talk about it. Like when I've done my history classes, we did talk about communism and what it is, and we talk about the general principles. That we're not sitting there being like communist bad. Like no, we don't teach, but we tell you what the principles are and why and how it failed in places and stuff. And you talk about how many people died, but you focus way more on the Holocaust. I would imagine because so many people fled to come here, but a lot of people fled like communist countries to come here. I know a lot of people who fled communist like Vietnam. In DFW, there's a big Vietnamese population. I know several families whose parents were like, yeah, I came here on a boat, like fleeing communist, Vietnam or communist Cuba and stuff. But yeah, I don't know why we don't talk about it as much. Because I mean, Hitler and the Holocaust is like a drop of water compared to what Stalin and Mao did together. Like, it's not good.
Yeah.
At all.
Especially Mao, just like killing all the birds and the impact that had on everything.
Yeah.
No birds means no one's controlling the bug population, which means the bugs are fucking up the crops, which means nobody can eat, which means millions of people are dead.
Yeah.
Ugh, what a nutcase that man was. I listened to a podcast about Mao, and I was just in awe of how anybody ever took this nutcase seriously. And it's still, he's revered in China now. The current leader, Xi Jinping, like, idolizes like Mao, dresses like him, like tries to act according to his example. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
Yep.
That's terrifying. And I think, Putin's, also taken some...
Well, because I know Putin at some point was in one of the secret police... Was it KGB or was he in the NKVD?
He was in the KGB.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if he was old enough to have been in, like, the other secret police or not. But yeah, like... I mean, that's one of the things Khrushchev did when he came into power is he started to like do anti-Stalin things, and people were like, "What?" And then he got booted out because that's not how you control people. You control people by doing what Stalin did, which is I'm gonna throw probably as high as 60 million people into gulags and into prisons and exile and just kill you because you disagreed with me. Like 60 million people, that's a lot. Like how many? There's like what 300 million in the United States, so that's. Yeah, like that's a lot. I can't do math very well, but that's a lot. It's people. I don't know. We don't talk about it.
You'd think with 2 master's degrees between us,
yeah,
one of us would be able to pull off some math.
Yeah, well, I knew that historians can't do math because whenever I was giving my first discussion of what my thesis project, how it was going, I told them how many pages I had, and I was like, for chapter 2 at that point I had 12 pages, and they were like, wow, you're halfway there, we expect you to have at least 50, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I knew that math. But okay, there we go, it's a fifth, there we go, 20%, so yeah, there, I can do math, it's a fifth.
Okay.
A fifth of the United States would have been killed. That's
wild.
Yeah, that'd be like if all of California just disappeared.
That's insane. I wasn't, I don't want to say impressed by something that Stalin did. I thought was interesting. It's how he not only killed his enemies and his rivals, he erased them. If he took them out of photographs. That's wild to just not even not just kill your enemy, but to completely deny that they ever existed. And if anybody mentions their name, they get shot immediately. That is power.
Yeah.
My God.
That's how you control people. You don't control people by being I'm sorry, I offended you. Let me fix this for you. Or, it's okay. We don't talk about it anymore because he's a bad guy. No, you say, I'm going to kill you because you did this. If you kill people, that's basically how you control people.
Yeah.
For anything. Because whenever Stalin started the Reign of Terror, not the Reign of Terror, but the, what was it called? The Reign of Terror, but that's a French Revolution term. I have it written down. What is it called? The Great Terror or the Great Purge. That was in the 30s. So technically, I don't think it was still going on as that event when the movie went on. It said it had been going on for 20 years. So they were still doing a lot of the same things. But whenever he started that, it was because of I think a Bolshevik or something group that he disagreed with, and he killed those people. But then they gave the NKVD quotas of people to kill, so they're like, yeah, if they just disagree with any of our stuff, just kill them or just get rid of them, whatever, no big deal. But I mean, that's how you make people go and listen to another recording that you just did of a concerto because they're actually scared that they're gonna die if you don't listen to it. That's actually a thing that doesn't happen in a lot of nations today, but that's how dictators stay in power, is fear. If you're actually terrified you're gonna die, yeah, homie, and you've never met the guy. Those people have never met Stalin before, but they're absolutely terrified of him and of making him upset because they had seen people go on lists and then die. It's pretty spooky.
That whole opening about, with the having to recreate the concerto was brilliant. Just, grabbing like the second best conductor in Russia while he's asleep and saying, "We need you to go do this now." Like when the guy is just like telling people like, "Sit the fuck down." Like,
do not defy me.
Yeah, oh my God. It's funny in the movie, but in reality, that's terrifying.
Yeah, like I cannot imagine like, going to like I don't know, not a recording of like a concerto, but going to see a play and like, wow, I got to watch Hadestown finally. Like, this is my favorite musical. And be like, well, that was a good night. I'm going to leave now. And they lock the doors like, sit your ass back down. Like, why? Like, Biden's going to kill you if he doesn't get a visual recording of this. Like, like, I can't imagine that because fortunately we have never had to deal with that in America. And I'm very grateful for that. We have a lot of problems, but we don't have tyrannical overlords over us, despite what a lot of people on both sides like to say about whoever the hell is in charge. Like, we don't have a Stalin, we don't have a Hitler, we don't have a Mao, we never have, and we should be fortunate for that. Like, we're allowed to go to a movie and leave when it's done. We don't have to watch it again.
It reminds me of an interaction from Batman Begins when Bruce Wayne goes to visit Carmine Falcone, and Falcone's like, you think desperate? You've never had desperate. Like, you're the Prince of Gotham. It's like, that's kind of who we are. Like, we don't know what fascism looks like.
No.
We think we do. That's why we outcry it whenever something doesn't go our way.
Yep.
But we have no fucking clue what an actual despot looks like, what actual tyrannical rule looks like, and I hope to God we never do.
The only people that did know here would have been like the American Revolutionary people, and even that wasn't as bad because King George wasn't going around being like, "Oh, you didn't drink your tea, right? Like, I'm gonna throw you in the ocean, mate." Like, no, it was still bad enough that they felt the need to like leave, but it wasn't like it wasn't these crazy regimes that rose to power in the mid 1900s. Like, even in Spain, like Spain had that. There's a lot of dictators during this time period, and we can't fathom that. And yeah, like you said, people throw on those terms like, "Oh, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist, you're whatever, you're a communist, you're like," no. Like, you don't know what that actually means because fortunately we've never had to live that. We can go to the grocery store and go buy a bag of Doritos at 2 a.m. because that's our right as an American. Yeah. And I think life's good when the things we have to argue about are like social issues, that aren't like just, like we're not arguing about being able to get like food and stuff. We're arguing about very like specific things. I think that says a lot of good about the society, even if it causes a lot of problems. Yeah. We're not having to worry about like, oh wow, like my governor literally won't let me live in my house anymore because he put the military in there. Like, no, we don't gotta deal with that.
I am also pretty much exclusively outcrying white people here. Because Native Americans and African Americans in this country have experienced this kind of tyrannical fascism, and I'm so sorry for that. White people, however, shut the fuck up. Yeah, you don't know what it's like. So
well, I mean, Italians and Irish and stuff, whenever they came here, they were treated like shit, too.
Not to that extent.
They still were treated like, not to that extent, but, like, people are treated like shit everywhere. Not to the same extent, no, as, African Americans and Native Americans and even like the Chinese and stuff that came over, but not all white people in the country have had, oh, everything's just great and I've always been on top. Like,
that's a slippery slope, though. Like,
yeah, we don't have to go into that,
That's getting into a much, much more interesting one of us is going to get canceled place. So let's talk. All right, this is going in a lot of interesting directions. So let's talk about the film's production. The Death of Stalin is actually based on a French graphic novel series titled La Mort de Stalin, which ran from 2010 to 2012 and was created by artist Thierry Robin and writer Fabien Nury. And yeah, they pretty much just adapted that graphic novel series, which I'd love to see, but I don't speak French. Oscar-nominated satirist Armando Iannucci started developing the film adaptation in 2016. Iannucci earned an Oscar nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay for his 2009 political comedy In the Loop, a feature-length spin-off of his BBC comedy series The Thick of It. He also developed the popular British comedy character Alan Partridge in all his various shows, as well as the political comedy series Veep. His directing credits include In the Loop, The Death of Stalin, and The Personal History of David Copperfield. In the Loop is hysterical. I recommend that big time. I saw a few episodes of the thick of it. It's basically a bunch of like British news government pundits, like small-time government people trying to stop the people who walk in front of microphones from saying really dumb shit that they have to deal with. And they made a movie about it. Basically, one of the cabinet ministers walks in front of a news camera and says something like, Middle East, like war in the Middle East is inevitable. And now all the fixers are like, fuck, why did you say that? Now we got to deal with this. And the lead fixer is this guy named Malcolm Tucker, who just has the most creative swear words I've ever heard in my life. And he comes to America and has to do some fixing, and it is so funny. It's so funny. Such a great movie. And then The Personal History of David Copperfield was cute. It's the Dickens novel, but the casting's all colorblind, so it's all just like, you know, best actors for the role.
Yeah.
And I thought that was creative. I'd like to see more of that. The film stars Steve Buscemi as Nikita Khrushchev, Simon Russell Beale as Lavrenti Beria, Jeffrey Tambor as Georgy Malenkov, Michael Palin as Vyacheslav Molotov, Jason Isaacs as Field Marshal Georgy Zhukov, Rupert Friend as Vasily Stalin, Andrea Riceborough as Svetlana, and Adrian McLaughlin as Joseph Stalin. I love it. It's pretty much all Brits and Steve Buscemi.
And
Jeffrey Tambor. Who's just like, I can't believe... I wonder how accurate that portrayal was, because what a fucking weak little man, and how did anybody back him as Stalin's successor?
Well, he was taken out of power pretty quickly after going in within like the first year. Not first year, but like pretty quickly, I think Khrushchev took him out. Not of like, he was still head for a little bit, but Khrushchev took him out of one of like his prominent roles. But he was only prime minister of the USSR for 2 years, March of 53 through February of 55. And that's it. And he was forced to resign as prime minister, but retained influence until he was found participating in anti-party group stuff to try and get rid of Khrushchev for what Khrushchev did to him. But they were like, yeah, that's cute. And they expelled him. And he apparently worked as a manager of a remote hydraulic plant for 30 years. So they didn't kill him, but yeah, he tried to get his power back, and they're like, no.
It shows that right there shows just how ineffective he was, because he tried to, you know, inspire a coup, and they were like,
no,
just go away.
Khrushchev's more charismatic than you are. Get out of here.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man. Just go manage the plant.
But he makes me laugh so much in this movie. Like, all my favorite lines are from whatever the hell Jeffrey Tambor says.
I think what I meant to say was no
problem.
Oh, boy. Yeah, it's great. He was great. Armando Iannucci insisted on not having the characters speak with Russian accents for 2 reasons. He thought it would take audiences out of the movie. He was right. That would have been ridiculous. It would have looked just stupid. And he didn't want the actors and actresses to worry about their accents when they were improvising, because he wanted to encourage improvisational comedy. And when you're worried about, you know, I got to say this in a Russian accent, and I didn't practice this in a Russian accent, it's going to affect the film. In a promotional interview on BBC Radio 5, Iannucci stated that Russian journalists who had previewed this movie praised that decision. They were like, thank you for not butchering our language. So there were some Russians who got to see this before the movie was banned in Russia in 2018, 2 days before it was due to be released. The Cultural Ministry stated, the distribution certificate for the film The Death of Stalin has been withdrawn.
Nice.
One member of the Cultural Ministry's advisory board was quoted as saying, the film desecrates our historical symbols. The Soviet hymn, orders, and medals, and Marshal Zhukov is portrayed as an idiot. I disagree. I think he's portrayed as quite an inept or an adept leader.
Yeah.
Everyone else, however, is portrayed as a fucking idiot.
Yeah, everybody except for Beria and Khrushchev are like dumb. It's just those two that are like at odds, and they're just trying to manipulate everybody to be on their side, and Khrushchev ends up winning because Khrushchev isn't like an asshole yet.
I thought this was kind of nuts. The movie was supposed to come out on the 75th anniversary of the end of the Battle of Stalingrad.
Nice.
And they were like, this is an affront to Russia's World War II veterans. Like, okay, yeah, kind of. I get that. But, I don't know. It's the fact that this film didn't get a release in Russia, that's propaganda all on its own. And, yeah. The estimates by historian Roy Medvedev, I don't know, place the number of victims killed by Stalin's regime at 40 million people.
Yeah, that's 2 million more than California's population. And I've seen estimates as high as 60, which is why I mentioned 60 back a little bit ago. Yeah, like it's high. It's high. And people don't I think there was like 24 million in the Holocaust, which is absolutely insane. Like that's a lot. But compared to 40, holy shit, you know, those are huge numbers, and it's disgusting that one dude, like, and then, you know, I think about it because I work with elementary kids, like, to think that like a cute little kid at some point could become like a monster in history. Ugh. Yeah. I don't get it.
You ever seen pictures of Joseph Stalin when he was a teenager?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Weirdly attractive.
Yeah. Yeah. I you know, I love the mustache. I really appreciate his aesthetic, but he's an absolute monster. Whenever I was teaching the history of him a little bit to my sophomores, I was like, he's the really cool mustache guy, but he's an absolutely awful person. Like, he has a sick mustache, and goals. Everything else about him?
I think the mustache was, and this is just my own personal theory, I have nothing to back this up. I think the mustache was one giant dunk on Hitler. I think Stalin saw Hitler's stash and thought, I can do that much better.
And then Mussolini said, I'm not going to wear a mustache.
Yeah, that's why he lost first.
That's why, yeah. Yeah.
Mustache makes the man. Oh, that's fucked up. The Death of Stalin made its money back, at least, grossing $24.6 million on a budget of $13 million. So it wasn't huge, didn't really get a lot of attention.
Yeah.
It has an IMDb score of 7.2, Rotten Tomatoes score of 94%. Critics' consensus reads, The Death of Stalin finds director/co-writer Armando Iannucci in riotous form, bringing his scabrous political humor to bear on a chapter in history with painfully timely parallels. I'd also like to point out that Rotten Tomatoes called him Arnando Iannucci, so way to spell check there, guys.
Nice.
It is great. It's a hilarious, I think at least mostly accurate in its like events, but you know the way we get there is very unique and amusing.
Yeah, like they didn't kill Beria immediately after the funeral. Like homie didn't die until December. That's when they decided to try him. I found out Stalin died on my birthday, so that's kind of cool. Like, I don't know. There's only another thing that happened on my birthday, which is another bloody event, and that's the Boston Massacre. There's not a lot of things that happen on March 5th. I think Michael Irving, who was a Dallas Cowboys player, was born that day too, but like that's, you know, nothing too crazy. But yeah, he died on my birthday. And how he died, like in the movie, for the most part, you know, like you don't know what happened in his room or how, like, if he really did read a letter from an angry pianist. But that night, whenever everybody came over to like watch a movie with him and hang out, that legit happened. They came over super late and were just hanging out with the boys basically. And then they were gonna go home, and he always liked to watch movies. So they watched a movie together, and then they went home at like 4 a.m, and he told his people at the door, "Don't wake me up until I wake up. Like, don't come in here until I'm awake." And then by 11 p.m. the next day, a housekeeper went in and was like, "Oh, Comrade Stalin," and he was in his pajamas, just passed it on the floor. He did pee himself, so that was legit. There's piss on the ground. Beria did come in first to like find him, and then doctors came in, and he did actually get rid of a lot of the doctors in the area because he'd been suffering with health problems for a while prior to this. Like, homie smoked a lot and was overweight, so he had something with his arteries where they were like narrowed or whatever, which led to a higher risk of heart attack and stroke. And he had a minor heart attack like years prior in 1945 when they were celebrating the defeat of Nazi Germany. And then he had like a minor stroke at some point, and one of the doctors was like, "Dude, like if you want to keep living, you should probably step down as a leader." And he was like, "I'm like, got that guy imprisoned and got rid of a lot of the doctors." So when they were like, "We don't have any good doctors left," that's legit. They got rid of all the good ones because Stalin didn't like what they were saying to him.
I can understand the Hippocratic Oath, but why would you ever suggest to Joseph Stalin that the only way you're going to live is if you step down?
Maybe he just wanted to really just tell him how he felt.
But you got to know that's the last thing you're ever going to say.
Yeah, well, you know, he did it, so homie did it. The public was told of his death the next day. He lied in the Hall of Columns for 3 days. People went to go see him. There was a bunch of people that died. I didn't look too deep into the matter because there's a lot of history behind this movie. But there was a crush that killed a good amount of people, though Khrushchev never actually gave the number. The movie, I think they say 1,500.
Yeah.
Which could be right, but there was a crush that killed people, which is a common thing that happens in history. It's like when a bunch of people are in an overcrowded space and they just crush each other to death. That happened at the Astroworld concert with Travis Scott a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah,
and then the 1979
that.
Who concert, that also happened. And when people were trying to go pay respects to Joseph Stalin.
One of these things is not like
crazy.
the other.
Yeah.
Why would you pay your respects? I mean, the man, Ding Dong the Witch is dead. The man who killed millions of people is dead. Why would you ever?
Because propaganda. Propaganda is really important. You can't keep that many people without both killing people and also good propaganda. Soviet propaganda is one of my favorite things to look at because it is just so wacky to me how it's look, Stalin is with a baby and look at breadland peace. I'm going to give you food, I'm going to give you land, and you get peace. Perfect. Look, you could never want it. Look at those bad capitalists. Ooh, scary. They're going to come here and work you in a labor place, which isn't the gulag, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which there's a lot of problems with capitalism itself too. Absolutely, it's not a perfect thing, but when you're able to spread misinformation and you're controlling the things around, you're going to have people that are, in the middle of nowhere that maybe haven't had to deal with the reign of terror that are going to be sad, or they're just so fucking scared. If I don't show up to pay my respects, maybe the next guy's going to come and kill me. So, oh no, Comrade Stalin's dead. I'm going to show up and cry. Oh man. I can't imagine what's going to happen with Kim Jong-un actually dies. How many people will probably be there paying respects to him, because he's doing the same thing, not as big, but you're controlling the media, you're terrifying people, you kill big officials because they defy you. It's how you do it. If anybody wants to be a dictator, you gotta have a lot of blood on your hands. It's not worth it, at all. Because someone else is gonna be after your blood. That's exactly what happens.
That's true.
That's why all the Roman emperors died. They were all dictators too. But they were more successful dictators, I guess, because they had an empire that went for a couple centuries. It's pretty influential, but also still not good.
All I know about the fall of the Roman Empire is what I learned from the Da Vinci Code. So nice. I'm going to just go ahead and not broach that subject.
Yeah. They basically, Rome fell because they weren't making their own people do stuff anymore. It was we're so powerful, we can just do enslave labor to do everything for us. And then they were giving people food and just bread and circuses was basically what it was. You can go watch stuff in the Colosseum. Here's free food. Everything's great. You don't ever have to work. Perfect. And then when things started happening, it was okay, we need you to do stuff. I don't know how to do anything. I never had to do anything before. No, fuck you. And then the barbarians, quote, invaded. And then all the enslaved people were no longer enslaved because the government just collapsed. And then they were you there, peasant, do you know how to fix this aqueduct? No, I never had to do that before. And then the Middle Ages happened. And that's why Europe went to shit for 1,000 years, because nobody had to do anything on their own, which is why working is important. It's very important. You can't have a country unless people work for it. You can't. That's a whole other rant you can go into. But history, man, there's a lot of things you can learn from what happened with the Roman Empire. And some people think that the United States is going that way right now, but that's a whole other thing to talk about.
I am noticing some parallels.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. There's a lot of ignorant, dumb fucks in this country who don't know how to do anything.
Yep.
And when our infrastructure starts failing and we're relying on those people, it's just going to fail worse.
My medieval history teacher basically phrased it to us if that water fountain in the hallway were to go out, would any of you know how to fix it? And no. Say you don't have books or anything either. You don't have your phone because the internet's out too. Would you know what to do? No. Would you? Because we don't have to do it, because we can just be I could just. But fortunately, we're not everybody's not on welfare. Just I'm just gonna go watch a movie today and whatever. We're just gonna have the immigrant workers. But it seems we're getting closer to that, and a lot of people just don't want to do anything because we're just gonna make somebody else do it, and that's not smart, because that makes you very weak, and that's what happened with Rome. Though this podcast isn't about Rome, it's about Russia.
So any advice you may glean from this, learn a trade.
Yeah, it's important, because you never know if the what's it called? what's supposed to happen in 2000 when all the stuff was just gonna like not work anymore.
Oh, Y2K?
Yeah, if that ever happens and we don't have access to the internet, you should know how to do something because then you can be marketable. Like, I know how to sew. Screw you guys. Like, I'm gonna be able to fix people's clothes and make stuff for them. I know how to bake things. Like, I can start a fire. I got my skills. Like, I can do something beneficial. Learn something that you think a medieval peasant would need to do, like farming or like, I don't know, like woodworking or mechanics, which wouldn't, yeah, like they still needed like mechanic stuff of some kind back then, not like auto stuff, but you know, learn something like that. If you're a medieval peasant, what kind of trade would you do? You'll be good if the Y2K thing happens, or if they send one of those, like, I don't know what it's called, but you know, one of those, like, it's not a bomb, but it makes all the internet go out.
EMP.
Yeah, if they do one of those, if they EMP us, you want to be on the safe side.
The fact that we all thought Y2K, like a lot of people thought Y2K was going to happen. That like as soon as the ball dropped on midnight, all the electronics on Earth were just going to stop.
Like, I don't know what to do.
Every nuclear missile was going to go off at the same time. Like, really? And then it didn't happen. And, you know, we just 2000 happened and we all just moved on with our shitty cell phones and our Dawson's Creek and our fucking Sugar Ray. So,
yeah, dude. Yeah. People are wacky. There's a lot of times that people thought the world was going to end and then it didn't end, like in 2012.
Oh my God, people went ape shit over 2012.
I was at my cousin's birthday party the day that was supposed to happen. It was like her, it was in 20, I think she was born in 2008 or 2007. Either way, she was still in elementary school. We were just like hitting a piñata and it's like, so the world might end today. Anyway.
I forgot.
Let's hit this piñata a bunch of times.
A couple days after it happened, I was like, oh, that was then. That was like Thursday. Oh, well, okay.
Anyway. Moving on.
The dumbest one I remember, because everyone, like, there were people who were like, you know, repent, the end is nigh.
Yeah.
Was June 6th, 2006. It was a Friday. The remake of The Omen was coming out.
Nice.
And a lot of people were like, it is 666. It's the devil's day. The end is near. And even then, I was like, no, it's 6606. It's 2006. It's not the year 6.
Yeah, we got to wait till 2066.
Yeah.
Then we're screwed.
No, then it's 6666. Like, 666 already happened 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, you're right.
So, it didn't happen, so
that we know of.
Chill.
We could be living in purgatory right now.
That would answer a lot of questions.
You know, like, as a Catholic, sometimes I question that. I also figured out a loophole when I was, like, a kid. And this is just from a Christian belief, Catholic Christian belief. You know, this isn't necessarily anything, but I told my parents this, so like that's not how it works as well. The Bible says no one knows the time or day the world is going to end. Therefore, if we all take one for the team and we predict the day is going to end every single day, it's not going to happen. There we go. We can prevent it from happening because no one's supposed to know the time or place. So if one person every day just says today's the day, it's not going to happen. That's
pretty much what happens. You know how many doomsday cults are out there?
Exactly. It's perfect.
Yeah.
We need those cults to survive because then God's like, oh, dang it, they guessed today, so I can't do it then.
What if, ironically, the doomsday cults are the only thing keeping us alive?
We need y'all to keep going out with your sandwich boards.
The fucking Jehovah's Witnesses.
Keep telling me I'm going to hell. Please.
I do love... I can't... I have a problem with faith in general, but if I was following somebody who told me the end of the world is on Friday, and then on Friday, nothing happened, and then he's like, oh, I got it mixed up, it's actually next Friday, I'm not gonna keep following that guy.
It's like, maybe you're full of it. Like, yeah. I'm okay.
Insane. So The Death of Stalin is currently streaming free on Tubi and AMC Plus. If you've got that, that's where you can watch it.
Nice.
I recommend AMC Plus because there's no ads. With that, let's give this film some awards. We have the Quentin Tarantino Award for the best line of the film, the Thomas Newman Award for the best music moment of the film, the Philip Seymour Hoffman Award for the best performance, and the John Carpenter Award for the best scene of the film.
Nice.
So let's start with the Tarantino. What is the best line from this movie?
This one was so hard, but I'm going to go with the one that we already actually said, where he's like, I think I misspoke when I said no problem. What I meant was, no problem. Because I said that shit all the time. My brother will say something to me, I'm like, no problem. But what I meant was, no problem. It makes me laugh. But there's so many other, like, there's honorable mentions. I have so many honorable mentions for this movie.
I toyed with I'm smiling, but I'm very furious. I love that.
I like it.
I have two, and I honestly don't like doing like ties.
Yeah.
But I can't. Like these are both just fantastic. So the first one's from Zhukov, who just shows up like fucking, it's awesome. I'll get to that later. Khrushchev's trying to convince him to join this coup. And he's like, be serious, are you in? And Zhukov's like, I'm in. That fucker thinks he could take on the Red Army. I fucked Germany. I think I could take a flesh lump in a fucking waistcoat. Jesus, man. He's just waiting to kill something. Oh, I love that. And then probably the one I am going to give the award to is from Malenkov. It's early on in the movie. He brought up one of the, like, an old comrade who's been executed and everyone got silent.
Yeah.
And they're chastising him in the parking lot. And he goes, I'm exhausted. I can't remember who's alive and who's not. Like, what a great description of Soviet Russia right there. It's like, I don't know. So many people are dead. How am I supposed to keep that straight?
See, Jeffrey Tambor, I love him. Like, he's one of my favorite actors in this. He probably is my favorite actor in this movie. Because, let's see, for all the ones that I listed for lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... are things that he said, and then only 3 others are from somebody else. Like,
you can kiss my Russian ass. Always gets me.
You can kiss my Russian ass. Stop using his feet, like, to point, and then, you take the head. Why? You're acting general secretary. I would be honored.
The head is the heaviest part.
He's telling us that he is the milk, and we are.
I don't remember who said it, but it was like when they're all lifting Stalin, and some guy just goes, "So I'm the only one leaning in the piss, am I?" Like, just, oh my god, that was fantastic. The whole time, because of Tambor and Arrested Development, I just kept thinking, it's possible I may have committed some light treason.
They can't arrest a husband and wife for the same crime.
I have the worst fucking attorneys.
God, I love that. I love that show so much.
Yeah, there's certain actors, like, especially with that show, that I'm never gonna not see in those roles. Oh my god, Tambor's one of them for sure.
He's also Mr. Big in Word Girl. Fun fact.
He's the bad guy in Muppets from Space.
He's also the mayor of Whoville.
He is. He is the mayor of Whoville. He's the government agent in Hellboy who hates Hellboy.
See, he's great. I love him.
Yeah, Manning. I
Jeffrey
love him.
Tambor's fantastic.
Oh boy. Okay, the Thomas Newman Award, the best music moment. What do you got?
I feel like you're also gonna pick this, or maybe I don't know if this might be your scene. I like whenever they introduce Field Marshal Zhukov, and he like throws his coat off, and the music that's behind. It's just that reminded me of Quentin Tarantino films. Like that specific scene was like, this is a Quentin Tarantino film. But it's not. That was my favorite part. It was a very brief, just musical moment. But I'm like, yeah! And then he just keeps going.
See, I didn't even hear the music, because I, in my head, heard the music from Inglourious Bastards when Hugo Stiglitz gets introduced. I went with more subtle moment. It's towards the end of the movie. It's the solemn piano that starts playing after they execute Beria. And we move over to see that Khrushchev is now running the show, and Brezhnev is right behind him. It's this music that's just kind of hinted that like this is a never-ending cycle of power-hungry jackasses eating each other, and it's never gonna stop. I'm honestly waiting to see who takes out Putin and takes over Russia next. Yeah. Like this shit just keeps.
I'm surprised
happening.
it hasn't happened yet.
Me
with
too.
Everything he's been doing, like, I'm really surprised. And someone I was talking about was like, it's because of the oligarchy. Putin's not really in charge. It's the oligarchy that's doing stuff. It's...
You'd think once the ex-KGB dictator of Russia starts threatening global nuclear war, the oligarchy would be like, we got to put someone else up there.
Because dictators are assholes and crazy, but they understand. Like, mad is a legit thing. Like, it's not... That's like like, we hate you, but not that much. Like, and I don't want someone that's that crazy just to be like...
Right?
Like,
yeah.
Please don't.
I don't want to, look out the window. I don't want to be talking to you right now and see a just mushroom cloud in the distance. Like, oh, man, well, podcast is over.
We just got Nagasaki, bro.
I am legit, like, I do sometimes think, like, if Putin's just feeling a little crazier today, today's the day.
I feel like they got someone watching him at all times.
I hope so.
To take him out.
I hope so, but he knows that. I mean, he's KGB. He knows when he's being followed. He knows when he's being watched, and just to piss people off, I feel like he might just be like,
with my final act, I curse Zoidberg, and then send us all into a nuclear holocaust.
You know what? It's worth it if those are his last words. The Phil Seymour Hoffman Award, the best performance, which I feel was very difficult for you. So, who did you go with?
Despite me wanting to pick Jeffrey Tambor, I actually picked Simon Russell Beale as Beria, because I mean, like, in actual history, like, that guy was like a tyrant in his own right. Like,
he was a notorious sexual predator.
Yeah, sexual predator. He was a tyrant. He killed he was responsible for, I think, the murder of, what was it? Hold on, I gotta find it. I want to say it was 40,000 Polish officers. No, I'm sorry, that's way too big of a number, but it's still a big number. 22,000 Polish officials and officers. He was like over that shit. Homie was awful, and freaking, Simon Russell Beale really makes you not like Beria, and I think that's a really good actor, is to make you hate a character, because I think it's easier to make you like somebody. It's hard to convincingly be like, I don't like this character. It was awesome to see him die at the end. Like,
the casual way he just keeps talking about like all the rape he's committing is like so fucking horrifying.
Yeah.
And he is kind of like a power behind the throne kind of person, and those are always the best guys to see die in movies like this.
It was pretty nice to watch him die.
I do love Zukov, just like one bullet, and he's like, well, that's that done, isn't it?
Yeah, everybody stops talking. They're like, rah, 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 bang, like.
And then they just light his ass up and walk away. Unceremonious. I had to give this to Buscemi. I love... He plays Khrushchev almost like he's, it's an extension of his Boardwalk Empire character. Like, this is a gangster. He's doing things like the way an Italian gangster would handle his business. You always get the vibe that he's the smartest guy in the room. Yeah. He's playing dumb for the most part, playing his part, waiting for his moment to strike, which is exactly what you do when the head of the family dies and you're making a play. Yeah. And I love, and he's just hilarious. The random shit he just blurts out as Nikita Khrushchev.
I don't think there's any bad actor in this movie, at all. Especially just the main three guys, Tambor, Buscemi, and Beale. Like, they're all fantastic.
I love Michael Palin as Molotov. He's, Michael Palin's a founder of the Monty Python troupe, so seeing him as a Russian, just is so funny. The way he's like what was it? They're gonna shove a cross up Beria's ass today, because he freed the bishops. Like, the crazy shit he says. I love when he goes to talk we need to kill this guy, but only if everyone agrees to it.
I mean, he said sneeze on the pastors as they go by. That made me laugh.
Oh, good stuff. All right. The John Carpenter Award, the best scene. What do you got?
My favorite, and this will always be my favorite scene, probably of a lot of movies, is when they're at the actual funeral and they're around the coffin, and they're playing telephone about how the trains were stopped, and who let the bishops in. He's like, switch places with me. No, we'll make it it's part of the ceremony. What the fuck are you doing? I hate this, but whenever something really tragic is going on in my life, I always got to make a joke out of it. And I cannot guarantee that the next funeral I go to, I'm not going to quote that, switch places with me. We can make it it's part of the ceremony. Just to give myself a little bit of a comfort during that.
I love that. You need humor to mask the darkness, so I say go for it. Probably going to upset some people, but I think it's worth it.
I'll say it to my brother and make him laugh. I'm going to help you out, bro. Just please with me.
I love the way Buscemi moves. He's trying to make it a ceremonial thing, and Tambor just stares at him.
My brother and I do that all the time, man. We quote that and we quote no problem, all the time.
That is a good pick. I'm still struggling between two scenes. I did have the introduction of Field Marshal Zhukov. Just his, Jason Isaacs shows up and just changes this thing. Okay, now we know who's really in charge. I love it. What's a war hero got to do to get some lubrication around here? And then just poof. But I am gonna go with I love that scene, but I was dying when they all lift Stalin to put him in bed. And they're all just complaining and scheming and, who found him first? Like, did he burn all the documents? And just like, it is an honor. And just, they're all such phony assholes. It's great. I love when they like drop him on some guy and he's like, God damn it. Like, he tries to, 3 times I pressed this suit. 3 times. It's great. Yeah. And I think at that point, Stalin's still alive.
Yeah.
So they're all just like...
Yeah, he died. He got sick. Or not sick. Like, he had his stroke on March the 1st, I think. Or they found him on the 2nd. He had dinner with them on the 28th. March 2nd is whenever they found him. Or they found him on the night of March 1st. And then March 2nd is whenever the doctors came in. And they were like, why are they all standing there? Are they going to sing for us? Like...
You're not a doctor. You're a testicle. Oh my God, he was crazy.
Yeah, no, he wasn't dead at that point. Like, he was still alive, but his whole, I think, right side was paralyzed. So yeah, homie, he wasn't gonna recover from that.
No.
Which is good. He didn't deserve to. No. But I don't wish death upon people. But when it comes to them, somebody like that, like, good.
I don't know if it makes me a bad person, but I wish death on quite a lot of people.
Ugh.
There's a good chunk of the world that, if they were gone, this would be a better place.
That's what a certain anime character thinks, and then he gets a book that allows him to kill people however he pleases.
If I had the Death Note book, I would use it all the time.
I never finished that show. I got to the very last episode, and I was like, no. And I just stopped watching it.
How?
It just annoyed me. I didn't like it. I do that with a lot of things. Like, if I will not finish something if I don't like it. Even if I get to, like, if I stop liking it, I'll stop watching it. I don't care if it's the last, like, episode. I only have one more episode. Nope. I think I did that with Kill la Kill as well, which is another anime. I got through, like, the whole thing except for the last, like, 2 episodes and said no. Ancient Magus Bride. Nope. The main character really annoyed the shit out of me, so I just stopped watching it.
How do you get that far into a series, though, and you're not irritated with it until then?
Yeah. Because it probably takes some, like, stupid turn or something that I'm like, I hate that, and I just stop watching it, and I don't feel the need to waste another, like, 30 minutes of my life to finish it. I'm like, nah, I'm already annoyed. I'm good.
That is... Wow. That physically hurts me.
Yeah. I do it with movies, too. I can get to, like, 15 minutes left in the movie, I'm like, this is trash.
I might have a nosebleed.
I did that with The Mask.
Ah!
Yeah. I didn't like The Mask. I almost did it with History of the World. Sorry.
God damn
like,
it.
That one was one of the ones. If I start looking at how much time is left in a movie, I'm already at the point where I'm like, I don't want to. And then as soon as there's like a trigger point that happens, it's not anything specific, but something will happen that just is like, I'm done. I don't care how much. I don't care if there's 2 minutes left. Like, I don't want to watch the rest of it. I just throw it away.
Be honest with me. The films I have shown you, have there been ones where you felt that and just didn't say anything?
Yes. But I'm not the one in charge of the movie, so I'm not going to do it.
Oh, this hurts. Damn. Personally, I thought I was winning every time. I probably have a much lower batting average than I thought I initially did. Damn.
I appreciate them because I'm watching it with a friend. If it was just me, like, I'm just going to watch it at the house. No! I'm like, I'm done. It's more fun whenever you watch it with somebody that's like your friend, but I almost turned off The Beguiled. I was like, this is a stupid movie. I was so close to turning it off. But my mom, she wasn't like into it, but she was annoyed by it too, but she wanted to see how it ended, so I'm like, fine. But there was another movie. Oh my God, what is it called? It was that one that I told you about. It was a romantic comedy and Notting Hill.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't finish that movie. I was 15 minutes away and I didn't finish it because it was stupid. After all that stuff, I was like, nope. Like, all this movie is so dumb. They got to the point, I don't even remember what the hell happened, but they shouldn't have gotten back. He shouldn't have forgiven her, and I knew he was going to, which is why I turned it off. I didn't want to see him be like, it's okay, even though you were a total bitch to me, and I was justified for being upset with you, but it's a romance, so I have to turn it off. So I don't want to watch it. I don't care if there's only 15 minutes, probably only like 7 because of the credits. Like, done. Wasted an hour and 40 minutes just to not finish it. Like, I'm good. Do that with books too. Like, I've done that with books, yeah.
This is amazing. I have the exact opposite approach to culture stuff. I need to finish something. If I get that deep into it, I have to see it through to the end. Oh, man.
Yeah,
Wow.
I've had TV shows I've watched multiple seasons of and just been like, oh, it's like Once Upon a Time, I watched like the first 3 seasons, then was like, I'm good. I'm not gonna watch it anymore. Gotham, watched a couple seasons of it, and then it got dumb. I was like, I'm good. I'm not gonna watch it anymore. Like, I don't want to know how it ends. I'm alright.
I watched the good seasons of both of those shows, and I was in too deep at this point. I'm like, I gotta see how this goes.
I wasn't gonna support them for the bad things that they did.
I watched Once Upon a Time and Gotham. I did watch the later seasons pirated, so
That's
I
fair.
didn't support them either.
That's good.
Second Elsa showed up, I was like, this is going downhill. And it just kept going downhill.
I think that's why I stopped watching it, because they were like, "Oh, here's Frozen." Now I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like,
The way
why are you just putting them in for no reason?
they
Like,
butchered King Arthur so horribly, and Hades. All of that was done so horribly. I was so pissed, and I still watched the last season.
Yeah, said bye. It's really easy for me to cut that stuff out. Like, I'm good.
See, with films, I once made a pact. When I started Filmgazm with Caleb, we said, we're going to watch everything. We're not turning anything off. Even if the movie sucks, we got to see it through to the end, because you can't review a movie you only watched half of. I later found out I'm the only asshole still holding to that pact.
Like, I feel like you can. I feel like that's a review in of itself. It was so bad, I couldn't watch it to the end. I physically could not watch
I've had
it to
movies
the end.
turn around. I've had movies where the first half is like shit, and then the second half, something happens where I'm like, oh my god, they saved it. I've had that happen, and it's a great feeling. It doesn't happen a lot. Most of the time, if a movie's shit at the beginning, it's going to be shit in the end. Happened to me earlier today with Turistas. Thank you so much, John Stockwell. But I couldn't do it. I would not feel comfortable turning a movie off. I can't do it.
Yeah, do it with songs too. Now I'm thinking about it. I'll be in the
Anybody
car.
can do it with songs.
I know, but it'll be like you're like 30 seconds away from finishing the song. Like, next. Like, I got tired with the song next.
Oh my god. The Mask especially hurts.
I'm sorry.
That's
like,
one of my favorite. I love that movie.
I watched it because my friend Kendall was like, it's a good movie. I really like it. And then at the time I was still friends with his roommate, and they both really liked the movie. So I was like, I'm going to watch it. And I was watching it with my mom, and I love Jim Carrey. I really love Jim Carrey, but I did not like that movie. Taxi Driver was another one I would have turned off during it, but I wasn't the one in charge of the movie. My brother was. Like, I would have stopped that movie probably 40 minutes in, because that movie made me very uncomfortable. It was too close to home, kind of, with how the guy was acting. But like, there's.
But you made it all the way through A Clockwork Orange.
I did. I don't know. I can't say how my brain works, man.
I don't know.
I didn't like A Clockwork Orange,
Yeah.
but I made it all the way through because it wasn't like a bad movie to me. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if it's because, like, this is a culturally significant movie, so I must watch all of it.
So
like,
is Taxi Driver. Like,
well, I watched all of Taxi Driver.
you did begrudgingly.
I didn't want to, but I did.
I'd argue The Mask is culturally significant, but you know what? I'm apparently on an island.
Sorry, Jim Carrey.
Sorry,
Connor.
Unbelievable. Now I'm trying to think back, like, what that I showed you were you thinking this? But I don't want you to tell me. I want to figure it out myself.
Oh, that'll be fun. That's a fun game.
I have a feeling one of them is An American Werewolf in London.
Confirm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ah, boy, this is gonna hurt. Maybe I don't want to play this game. Well, let's see what people on Letterboxd are saying about the death of Stalin on our next segment. What's in the box?
What's in the fucking box? Give me the gun.
So, the death of Stalin's rocking a 3.7 out of 5 on
That's
Letterboxd.
disgusting. It should be a 5 out of 5.
There is no 5 out of 5.
It should be.
I think
It should be a 4.9 out of 5.
that scored. I think the highest scored film is like 4.4, and I think it was Everything Everywhere All at Once for a while. I don't think it's that anymore, but that's about as high as it goes.
I could go on a whole rant about why RRR should have been the main movie at the Oscars. After I saw it, it was fantastic. But quote Marty McFly, I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, or whatever he says. Like, but your kids are gonna love it.
Quoting my favorite movie is not going to dig your way out of the hole you have dug with me in regards to film. I am deeply hurt. 3-hour Bollywood movie. Got through that.
It's a fantastic movie. It was deep. It was powerful. It made me like, what? Like the whole time I was hugging my pillow. I was on the edge of my seat. I said, I really liked Everything Everywhere All at Once, but I like RRR way more. And I like them both a lot. So that says how much I like RRR. Like, they're up there. Like, if there's more than a 10 out of 10, that's what RRR is for me.
Damn.
That's how much I liked it, which most people, you know, they obviously don't have to agree with me. I really liked the movie. Like,
well, good for you.
Good, man.
I may watch that at some point. I threw it into my giant list, so if I grab it randomly, I will watch it.
Random.
This first review is from Mike Jin. Best part about being dumb is watching historical movies. I had no idea what was going to happen after Stalin died. 4.5 stars.
That's funny.
First time I saw this, me neither. I am not well versed in Russian history.
Yeah, no, I'm not either.
Yeah.
I could tell you like a little bit about like the Bolsheviks versus the other guy. See, that's how much I know. The other guys.
The other guys.
The Red Army and the White Army. Like, I know a little bit of, but it's peanuts. Like,
yeah. I was, when I got to grad school in Texas State, I was really hoping the classes would be there'd be a bigger selection.
Yeah, they're very niche classes here.
Yeah, would have loved a Russian history course. I know a fuck ton about the age of the Stuarts in English history now. I didn't want to.
Now you know.
Now I know. I can tell you
you
everything that happened to King James. That's in here forever.
I was blessed that we had a medieval class when I was an undergrad. That class was awesome.
See, I was an English major in my undergrad. I wasn't pursuing history, so I missed out on so much.
I took pirate history undergrad. That was awesome. That was like an actual pirates, like Yarg for the people listening, like not just the Haitian people not Haitian. Haitian, right? Haitian pirates. Somalian. I think there probably are some down there in the Bahamas too. But for real, the Somalian ones, the main ones. Yeah.
I took a class on Dante's Divine Comedy, and I didn't read it.
That's kind of cool, though.
I got a B. I didn't read the damn thing.
That's sick.
That's such an easy... It's so easy to pass English classes without doing anything.
It really is.
And I really hate that I did that.
I am happy to announce, now that I'm getting my degree, that I never once read a book to its entirety the entire time I was in college. Like, ever.
What about... Well, I guess your thesis didn't involve...
I had books, but I didn't read them like to entirety. I just found chapters that I needed and then would just skim and be like, cool. Perfect. Like, awesome. Like, I never once read an entire book. There's not a lot of books I've read to entirety because, like I was saying with movies and stuff, and I'm like, I'm done. I don't need to read it anymore. I got like more than 3/4 of the way through with Airframe and was like,
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about that. You see all that giant stack of books there? There's like 20-something books. I know they can't see it, but you can see it.
Yeah.
I bought all of those preparing for whatever direction my thesis would go in.
Nice.
That thin one on the very top in the middle, and that orange one on the far right.
Yes.
Those are the two I read.
Nice.
All the rest of those are just here.
Yeah. Like, I have like 18 pages of things that I cited because I did use books, but I wasn't like, I read the entirety of Interpreting Historic Sites by William Payne. No, I read one chapter or one paragraph in one chapter that said, yep, this goes with what I need. Anyway.
Yeah.
You can do it. If you want a degree, you don't have to read. You just have to be really good at bullshitting. That's the caveat.
When I got into, like, Dr. Montgomery took a chance on me. And she was like, you don't have a lot of credits, but I think you can do this. Just, like, there's so much reading. You have to commit to that or you're not going to do this. Blech. And I got to say, I didn't read that much.
I almost told my thesis committee that I hate reading and writing when I was in my defense, and then I realized what I was saying, and then I had to like switch directions and be like, it's really hard for me to enjoy reading and writing when it's things that I'm like not passionate about. And I was like, that's why if I were to write more about, because they asked me if I wanted to write a book about what I wrote about. They're like, you could write a book out of this. Are you going to write more? And I was like, not if nobody wants to read it. And I think I offended Dr. Randolph because he was just like, what, you mean like all these theses are just worthless? And I was like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't see the point in writing something if I don't think anybody's going to read it because I don't care about writing that much unless I think it's impactful. So yeah, that is what I'm saying. Like,
well, know your audience.
He was so mad.
Before you start basically belittling their life's work.
Diedick agreed with me, though. He was like, I won't write something unless I have a contract with a publishing thing. If they want it, then I'll write it. But he's like, if nobody wants it, I'm not going to write the book. And then be like, oh, it's stupid, and then not publish it. I'm like, you agree with me, Diedick. I can't. I don't like writing. I like doing other things. Like, I'll sew something because I just want to sew it, even if nobody else gives a shit that I just said this like medieval, historically accurate thing. That's cool, but writing and but I'm a graduate major, and I'm a graduate, and I just wrote a almost 150-page thesis, and I hate writing. Yay!
Considering all I pretty much do is write and record stuff that I don't know if anyone's listening to, I kind of get where Randolph's coming from on that one.
No, I mean, that's fair. Everybody has their passions. Like,
Well, why didn't you do the comps route then?
Because I also didn't see a point in doing graduate school and not doing a thesis. Because if I get a job as, like, a historian, what'd you write your thesis about? I didn't do a thesis. Like, I don't think that's going to be a good answer if they're asking me what I did a project on. Like, I can use my thesis on my resume. I can't use comps on a resume. I can be like, look, I literally did a project about interpreting historic sites. I'm well versed in this because I spent a whole year researching it.
That's true.
Ta-da! It was for my...
That's why I left comps.
It was for my resume. And I didn't want to tell somebody I didn't do a thesis in graduate school.
I already fucked up my undergrad. I wasn't going to fuck up my master's by not doing a thesis.
Yeah.
So thankfully, not the case. This next one's from Senesia.
What's in the box?
Yeah. I know. For a second I was like, oh yeah, there's a podcast happening over here.
Oops.
Senesia said, I mean, hijacking Lenin's funeral procession was literally how Stalin came to power, so I don't know what Khrushchev was complaining about. 3.5 stars.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
The funeral is where you make your move.
It's true.
That's what we've learned. This next one's from Joshua Dysart. So deeply and profoundly historically inaccurate that one wonders if they meant to capture the spirit of the real story even a little bit at all. Yet I love it so much. 4.5 stars.
Fun. I mean, a little bit of it's true, but it's a satire. Like,
yeah,
it's supposed to be a comedy. It's not supposed to be a documentary.
And if you do want to learn about, the Russian transfer of power and the Bolshevik Revolution and Russia under Stalin, go to PBS. Go to the History Channel. Go to podcasts. Don't go to satirical comedy writer Armando Iannucci.
Yeah.
That's on you.
Yeah. I think, though, like, with these movies that we talked about on Fake True Stories, even the fake ones, they do serve a good purpose in making people interested in history. Like, even the 300 is not at all accurate. I think it does good in the sense that it could make some people out there be like, is that really what happened? And then they start to learn, they're like, oh, that's how it happened. But that's so cool that, this is how the Persians came into power and, took over the Greek, provinces and city-states. And so, wow, like, they inspire people to want to learn, even if they're not true. It just makes it better when it's a good movie.
It does. It really does. And yeah, that's kind of what we talked about when we first started Fake True Stories, was like the academic value of this kind of movie. And I don't think there's necessarily a lot of academic value in this kind of movie.
I wouldn't see the need of showing this to, like, my Russian history class.
Yeah. If I was writing a thesis on, Stalin and Khrushchev, I'm not going to cite this film as a source.
Yeah.
But knowing my ass, I would try.
It's like, some people like to say this is what happened. Like Death of Stalin. Like.
Yeah. This last one's from Bombs Fall. Appropriate. I feel like you could probably do communism better than this. I probably could. 3 stars. Yeah.
Nice.
A lot of people think that, communism works in theory. I just, you just have to do it right. It's like, well, you sure about that?
It works in theory, but people are assholes, therefore it doesn't work.
Most people are not taught how to share.
That's really what it is. Like, people are assholes and it's not going to work because
every time a regime, every time a tyrannical regime has been toppled in history by people who claim, we're going to do it better, they then become the corrupt regime and are toppled by somebody else. That has happened every single time.
Yeah. I mean, it's like with, like, abuse. Like, it gets passed down generations. I'm going to be better than my other people. Shut up, bitch. Shut up, asshole. Like, it happens. It's sad. But people inherently are jerks. Not all people are bad, but, like, you're not going to have a society where everybody's going to be like, oh, boy, I can't wait to all go out and do the exact same work so we can all get the exact same thing. Because if I'm in the field and if me and Connor are, like, in the field and I'm not doing my share of work, Connor should not get the same amount of stuff as me. even though I'm out there just like on my phone the whole time, you know, like I'm on my phone. I'm not like, you know, reaping the harvest, but Connor's doing all the work and we both get paid the same amount. Like, fuck no, I shouldn't deserve that. But like that, because people, that's what's going to happen. You see it all the time. You see it in group projects, for example. Have you ever had a group project that was perfect and everybody did the same thing? No. There you go. Communism doesn't work. Sorry. Like, it's a really good idea, but we're not capable of doing it. Ants do it. I think ants do communism pretty well. They said we're all going to make an ant bridge to get to this leaf, and then we're going to bring it back. And it's great.
But even then, you have the queen.
That's true.
You have a leader.
That's true. We're all equal, but queen is more equal than you.
Yep. Animal Farm.
Thanks, pig.
Well, that is all for what's in the box. So, real or fake? The death of Stalin.
I would say more fake because it's a satirical. It's not supposed to be funny. So I think in general that makes it fake. But in terms of, you know, the terror that you see in there, but I don't know. Like, it wasn't humorous, and I think whenever you make a serious event humorous, that just takes away all agency from the movie, even if what you are saying has a lot of truth behind it.
Yeah.
You gotta label it as fake. I criticized some kids that I judged this past weekend because they were telling the story of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, and they made it sound like it was a comedy, which 600 women died in that factory, and I wrote that in their thing. I was like, hey, know what your subject's about before you present it. Like, and then they also did that, another group did it with Sacagawea. They said that she was like, you know, really like a pioneering woman and stuff, and their little skit was only about Lewis and Clark, and Sacagawea was in there purely for like comedic relief, and I'm like, this is gross. Like, I know y'all are like 13, but no. So
I think you should just be grateful that they didn't like talk about her relationship with Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt wasn't alive whenever she was
Night at the museum.
Oh, Night at the Museum. I have to say,
I know that, Isabel. I know that.
I was like, Connor, I'm concerned. They did write in their paper, though, that Benjamin Franklin was president. So that was
Jesus
like,
Christ.
No! They didn't say it in their skit, but in their paper, they said Benjamin Franklin was president. And I was like, no! He was on the $100 bill, but he wasn't anything else. Like, he wasn't president.
Jesus Christ.
We got the post office from him, though. That's cool. Like,
yeah. Well, I weep for the next generation.
Yeah.
That's very sad. But this movie's not. It's funny, and I like to think that Armando Iannucci got a hold of like Stalin's diaries and very meticulous note-taking of that time, and this is 100% accurate.
Yeah.
They were just laughing it up the whole time. None of them were actually Russian. That was a ploy. It's bullshit, but it's fun to imagine. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you like the show, feel free to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Filmgazm Productions. If you want to suggest films for us to check out, you can email us at filmgazm@gmail.com. Or, of course, send us a message through the socials. Check out our Letterboxd accounts for daily reviews. You can search me at Connor95, and in my friends list, you can find the rest of the team. Check out our website, filmgazm.com, where I have a link to that Letterboxd if you want to read my reviews, and you can also find articles, trailers of upcoming films, and every episode of our show. If you'd like to become a monthly donor to Filmgazm Productions, feel free to click on the link in the episode description. From there, click on Support This Podcast. You can choose to donate $1 a month if you like us, $5 a month if you love us, $10 a month if you can't live without us. All donations go right back into the podcast, and we appreciate it. Thanks to the entire Filmgazm team for their constant friendship and contributions to the show. Austin Johnson, Caleb Leger, Josh Allred, Colton Jenkins, Isabel Gonzalez, Jeremy Johnson, Adam Johnson, and Mysia Pierce-Lewis. Thanks to Cooley Cal for our awesome theme music, and thanks to you for checking out the show. Remember that in politics, there's no such thing as off the record. Someone is always listening, and nobody ever forgets. Take it easy, keep watching movies, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.